Well, I was taking that time to respond to someone.
Hello, everybody. All right, so there we go. Just had to double check, make sure that the sound was coming in all right on there. Woody's here. Hey, Woody. Let's see. Uh, Chantilly lace and a pretty face and a ponytail hanging down. Little bit of walk and a little giggle in her talk makes the world go round. Anyways, so hello everybody. We're now on Friday. This is the historical comic retrospect. Hey Mel, what's up?
Howdy, howdy.
You wanna introduce yourself to everybody and tell everybody who you are and what you do and all that?
Sure. I go by the metal and have for years. I for a long time I have a hard time describing myself. You know, like actually coming up with like a title because I do a little bit of everything. You know how that is. It's like I vlog, I make comics, I do talk shows. I might even come over and fix your sink if it's busted. I don't know. But you can currently find a lot of my stuff at xdynamischaos.com, which is where I put up a lot of my fiction stories. And you can find me on the Vomitorium live at the YouTube channel Vomitorium Podcast.
All right, I'm just doing something here. Let's try this again. Trying to augment my numbers, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I'm also currently burnt really bad. I don't know how well you can see through my camera because the filter's on, but I am really red.
Oh, I can tell you're red.
Yeah.
And it looks like your
Yeah, you
beard's
can see
out too,
that.
which I saw this morning on the video you posted this morning too. I think there was a line there about see you at 8 and don't be late. Well, it might have been. Um, yeah, so tonight, of course, and as always, if you guys can help out by liking, sharing the stream, seeing if we can get some more friendly people here to watch the show, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything that we go over in the reading tonight, if anything grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. Um, and I'll try to answer the questions as best I can. And of course, that goes especially for you as my co-host there, Metal. If anything grabs your attention, feel free to bring it up, and we can talk about it a little bit, commentate on it, as it were, whether it be the
Mm-hmm.
art or storytelling or what have you. Um, so, without any further ado, just I can check something here real quick. Okay. Without any further ado, of course, why don't we go ahead and get started with our reading? And ah, uh, Woody's saying something here. Good to see you, guest hosting again. The metal. Mm-hmm. And metal. I know you said you didn't feel like doing the read along tonight. I understand, but as I said, if you can, feel free to get some commentary on
Absolutely.
whatever we read. So, soon
No,
as
yeah. Like even I'm talking about being tired. After I got back from doing that vlog and stuff, right before I came over here, I helped the people I was house sitting move a lot of stuff around in their backyard. So I
oh
was doing
yeah.
like a lot of heavy lifting too. It's like I'm pooped.
Yeah, and I know you're down there in Texas. I'm here in California,
Yeah.
and it's been like 90 degrees today.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
So I
luckily it was
mean,
still in the 80s when I was moving stuff, but it's like 100 something out right now.
yeah. So Let's see. It's okay. Harvey is what we need to find. Okay, Harvey, and then small print a little later on. So we're gonna go to Speed Comics first. Speed Comics, Volume 1, Number 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got them up in front of me. I was able to use the links you dropped in our message earlier.
Okay, so you can follow along from that perspective
Mm-hmm.
as well. Then, yeah. All right. So let's see. Do we have it up on there? Yep, we do. All right. So I'm going to probably be doing all the reading tonight. I'll be all the voices tonight, as it were. Um. So why don't we go ahead and get started here? All right. So Shock Gibson big double length feature. As we said, this is 22 pages, which at a time a regular lead feature was like 12 to 13 pages. So yes, it is
Mm.
virtually double length. Speed Comics number
Yeah, but
4.
that's a lot closer to what the standard for a single feature comic would eventually be. Unless you ask Marvel these days, you're lucky to get 18 pages of story.
Yeah. Well, I've seen and when I've done the this day in each history segments,
Mm-hmm.
and I looked at the page count. A lot of times they say 32 pages, and the stories are like 20 something, like
And just
24.
ads.
Yeah, I get that. Like here, it's 71 total pages, but you do have some ads in there. So anyway, Speed Comics number 4, January. Now the January date, of course, that's a cover date.
Yeah.
The book actually went on sale in November. So 64 pages, all color, all action, all thrill. And there's Shock Gibson right there.
Yeah, it looks like he's being hit with molten metal.
um, are you molting metal?
Not yet, but given the sunburn, if you wait a couple days or so, I might be molting some skin.
That was meant as a play on words,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you notice the costume there, how it does kind of look similar to Golden Age Flash in some respects.
Yeah. He's even got
Maybe
like a
not
lightning
as
bolt going
diversely
across him.
colored, mind you, just the red and the yellow, but you know, um, very similar design. And this he did kind of predate the Flash by a few months here. But anyways, let's go ahead and there's page 2, just a darker shade of the.
Yeah,
Let's
that
see.
second page just seems like it's a not touched up cover. Like that was the raw scan of the old cover that they were able to get.
Yeah. Every month in Speed Comics, more thrilling adventures of Shock Gibson, the human dynamo, Crash, Quark, and the Baron, 3 flying aces, Spike Marlin, the two-fisted seaman, Biff Bannon, the fighting marine, Smoke Carter, the fireman, Ted Parrish, man with 1,000 faces, and others. And I know Tex Tyler's another one we covered in the year before too. That cowboy.
Yeah. Well, even like looking at the names too, right? Most of them, even if they are an alias, just look like a normal name, like a person's name, and that it kind of speaks more towards the fact that we're still in like that pulp era of writing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, here we go. Here's Shock Gibson. Charles Gibson was at work in his laboratory one day when it was struck by lightning. Some reaction of the chemicals combined with the electricity caused a mysterious change in the youth. Instead of killing him, it made him all powerful, endowed with an almost unbelievable strength and energy. The youth then dedicated his marvelous powers for the service of you. Now, remember how we were saying his costume was very similar to the Golden Age Flash?
His powers are almost the opposite.
Well, okay, but his origin is very similar to.
Yeah, yeah.
If you remember, well, okay, Well, his origin's probably more closely associated with the Silver Age / Barry Allen than.
Yeah, well, yeah, because Barry was like basically shocked by lightning and doused with chemicals at the same time.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what happened
Yeah,
with Shock here.
yeah.
Yeah. For the service of humanity, he adapted a distinctive costume, and under the new name Shock Gibson, vowed to work always in the interest of fair play. Now you know Metal. Let me see
Yeah.
how well your Golden Age trivia is here. Do you
Probably
know?
not so well.
Do you know of at least one other character who often talked about fair play?
Fair play. Hmm. Not specifically.
I'll give you a bit of a hint. It is a DC character.
DC character. You talked about fair play. You know, I probably know the character, but I'm not connecting the words fair
Didn't
play
know
to
this
them.
about him.
Yeah.
It was the first Mr. Terrific, Terry Sloan.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Oh, even Joshua Hughes, buddy of mine from the Cult of Raven, even said that in the chat.
Huh.
Hey, Josh.
Oh, Joshua. Oh, you got some of the year, huh? Let's see. Hello, Joshua. How many comic book characters get their powers from being struck by lightning? Well, I only know of two because, again, prior to me doing this historical comic retrospect from a more general perspective, I would focus primarily on DC and any of the any of the companies that basically they absorbed into them. Granted, I do know a little bit about Marvel as well, but it was basically DC and the companies. So I do know of like Shock Gibson, Barry Allen Flash. I mean, theoretically, too, if you think about it, you could argue, albeit he could be considered non-canon, Black Vulcan of Super Friends may have gotten his powers from lightning as well, considering how he turned into Flash, Electro, Livewire. Oh yeah,
You could
Electro and
make a
Electro
really
from Marvel.
stretched argument that Captain Marvel gets his powers by getting struck by lightning.
Yeah. Well, it's a magical lightning bolt.
Yeah. But he still gets struck by lightning every time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, more of a literal interpretation.
Yeah. As I said, if you stretch it.
Yeah. In an industrial center of America, a huge steel mill operates. Now look at that. That was a steel mill. That's what a steel mill looked like back in the day.
Yeah.
Serving the mill is a busy railroad line.
I've actually been to a couple steel mills. They're a lot fancier now, though.
Yeah. Well, based on what I was watching on your video earlier, you would think that you might have had some steel mills like that in like the town you grew up in there.
Not directly, but if you were to go about 20 miles south on the highway, my dad actually used to work for a bearing supply company with like machine parts and stuff, and I would go with him on runs, and there was actually a steel mill that we had to deliver parts to quite frequently.
All right, so beneath a bridge on that line, a sinister group is gathered. We'll put the dynamite right here. Okay, being spies for an aggressor nation is dangerous work, but it pays well.
Oh, that dialogue, it's like what you don't want to do in narration. Let's just get the characters to say. It's like, okay, these are what these people are. Nobody would say that, like in an actual conversation.
Yeah, but again, we got to remember this is still early on. Maybe they're still working out some of the dialogue
Yeah.
issues there. But anyways, A freight train carrying ore to the mill enters upon the bridge. At that moment, a spy pushes down the detonator. That's the end of one train. The bridge is blown sky high. Boom! And the doomed train crashes down into the canyon. In his New York office, Shock gets the news by radio. Flash! Train wreck! Bridge! Dynamited! Firing suspected! I must put a stop to that at once. Shock disguises himself as a hobo and hops a freight.
Is it necessary?
Is it well, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. In these rags, I could pass for a regular hobo. For a week, he rides the rails, and then one day, hello, mind if I join you? Howdy, Bo. Going our way? These don't look like real hobos. I think I found something.
Well, you would know, also not being a real hobo.
Yeah. That night in the hobo jungle. Hobo jungle. That's the first I heard something like that.
That's the first I've heard the use of that word, but I've seen hobo jungles. There was one not too far from where I lived once, but I've never seen it called that. Yeah.
Yeah. This is a life. You said it, Bo. Better than work. That new guy is just a poor hobo, but he mustn't hear our plans. He won't. I'm putting knockout drops in his Java. Have some hot Java, buddy. Thanks, pal.
Oh, Joshua says I have to put a stop to this at once. 1 week later.
Ben Frank. Oh yeah. Okay.
I like the idea that there's not a legitimate hobo amongst this whole group of people.
Yeah, but well, maybe in this case, what they were trying to do was, maybe they were trying to link the criminal element to the same thing as hobos, vagabonds. Basically just people hanging around. I think it was more the idea the guys who just hang around the shipyards and the train tracks who basically just don't do anything.
Yeah, I mean they're unsuspecting. Like you expect a hobo to maybe like pickpocket somebody at worst or something like that, maybe assault someone, but you don't expect them to be carrying around dynamite and blowing up trains or anything.
Mm-hmm. And just as a reminder for everybody, if you haven't already, if you guys can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to watch the show, that'd be appreciated as well. And of course, feel free to comment and or ask questions. We'll try to answer the questions to the best of our ability. Anyway,
usually the worst thing a hobo ever does is public indecency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you get the ones who decide to flash you, right?
Yeah.
It reminds me of a scene from Kokusen anime. Anyways, Shock's alert senses detect the drug. Let's see. This stuff is drugged. But it can't affect me. I'll just pretend to fall asleep. A few minutes later, I feel so sleepy. I. Is he out? Out like a lamp. Now we can talk. As shocked, keen ears overhear every word. All right, number S54, make your report. The westbound freight will be wrecked at Deadman's Gulch. Eastbound will pile up at Laurel Hill, a weekend culvert. Um, that's good. And the other group destroys a steel mill tomorrow. Let's see. Having heard enough, Shock leaps to his feet, rips off the hobo rag, and appears in his distinctive garb. Spies, huh? I'll fix you. What the? Let's play 10 pins. Yow!
I just kind of want to know, like, what do they get out of this? Like a lot of these older stories never do this. Like,
okay, what do you mean by that? When you ask that, what do you who are you at when you're asking who what did they get out of it? Who are you talking about?
these like gangsters or whatever, the guys blowing everything up. Like, what does this? What does this really do for anything that they want? Right? Like, I wish these writers would flesh out the plans just a little bit more.
Yeah, I know I had a very similar discussion with Rick a while back. Um, here's my take on that. When people talk about the fact that maybe now, granted, this may not have been quite as much an excuse, because I mean this feature did get 16 pages, mind you.
Yeah.
But I think one of the reasons why sometimes the plots don't get fleshed out as much as would seemingly make sense is because at this point in time, as you notice, they were all a lot of the books here were anthologies at this point in time, and and I'm sure that certain writers and certain features were assigned a certain number of pages, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So,
But like
like the lead
sometimes,
feature, from what I found, now granted it varies, but your lead feature, which is usually the first feature of the book, would usually get, maybe 12 to 15 pages. And then the secondary feature might get 10 to 13 features. Then the secondary feature would be the last story of the book. And then all the ones in the middle, all the ones in between, get anywhere from like 4 to 8 pages. So I think sometimes what plays into this, why maybe sometimes the plots don't always get as fleshed out. And now, granted, I don't know if this would be the case. Maybe they are going to flesh it out a little bit more here in the times to come. Because you were saying, well, what are they going to get out of this? Maybe they'll explain that in the story. Now,
yeah,
the thing is,
hopefully,
they did say that they are spies for an aggressor nation. So
yeah,
maybe, and considering this is, granted, still 2 years before America gets into the war, but we're in Europe. World War II is already happening,
yeah.
and maybe this is one of those things where these are spies. Maybe they're trying to keep America out of the war. I guess.
Yeah, just like all I want is a single throwaway line of like, uh, maybe this will get them into it, maybe it'll get them out of it. Like just a single line of dialogue is all I really need here.
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah,
offering my
yeah, yeah.
observation from what I've seen. I don't know. I mean, it's not like we could snap our fingers and all of a sudden either go back to 1939, talk to the writers here, and ask them this stuff, or we. And of course, I don't think neither you nor I know anything about necromancy to where we can just bring
Well, I
it
might
back.
know a little, but I'm not gonna dabble in it.
I think we know what
Yeah.
necromancy is, but what I meant by knowing it, meaning we don't know how to do it, nor are we intending to engage in it.
Yeah, no, no, yeah. The first part, that's for question, but the second, I'm definitely not engaging in it.
Yeah. So, Anyways, as we continue on here, while the three spies are knocked unconscious, the fourth makes for a tree. Look at that, he's trying to climb up a tree to get away from the superhero. How's that going to work for him? Well, I guess
It's like climbing a tree to get away from a bear.
try and get up here and I'll kick your face in. With his terrific strength, Shock uproots the tree. You're coming down. Down comes the tree. Gosh, this guy ain't human. This guy ain't human. You didn't finish your report. Where's the dynamite planted in the steel mill? Help! Quit! It's in unused furnace number 13. Unused furnace number 13. Wonder why number 13 is unused.
Because people are very superstitious.
That could be one thing. Or maybe the superstition in this case could be right. Maybe it might be one of those things where if they were to use it, it would probably blow the whole plant up, maybe.
Or they had problems with it in the past, right? So they just don't ever light that furnace again.
Right. Anyways, when the spies come to, Shock binds them tightly. This will do. And he's, wow, you see the sign right there, no trespassing. I can use this. On the back of the sign, Shock scrawls a message.
He just happens to have, I guess it's a pen, some writing implement on him.
Yeah.
Maybe he pulled it out of somebody else's coat, because it doesn't look like he really has room on his person to hold pens.
About the only place I could think possibly is maybe inside the binding of his belt there.
Yeah, maybe.
That'd be about the only place. I mean, if he had it on him, that'd be either the inside binding of his belt or his helmet. Those are the only.
Or maybe like,
or his shoe, or maybe one of his shoes.
Those really loose gloves of his. Maybe he's got like little straps inside where he could keep important things.
Yeah, that's true too. This will hold you for a while. Now to save those trains, I've just got time. Foreign spies do not release. With the speed of the wind, Shock runs down the track. First, the westbound train. Meanwhile, the westbound fast freight speeds along, making up time. It nears Dead Man's Gulch. Oh wow! What? Well, I'm sure there have been many Dead Man's Gulches over time, right there, Metal?
Yeah.
That's a common phrasing for a lot of things.
Well, typically it's called Dead Man's Gulch because people were riding horses or something along it, and plenty of people have died falling into the gulch.
Where destruction awaits it.
Oh, yeah. Joshua says it was Hammer Space, which is a kind of a common trope concept. I use it in my comics, where it's like how a video game, like an RPG or whatever, and you just have like infinite storage space, but you have no idea where that storage is, and you just pull it out of nowhere.
Oh, Hammer. Oh, in terms of where Hammer.
Where the pen came from. It's like it's named after Sonic the Hedgehog, where Amy Rose keeps her giant hammer that she just pulls out of nowhere.
Yeah. All right.
But it's like, can you imagine being a cop walking up on that? You just see like a whole bunch of people tied together. It says foreign spies do not release. He didn't even bother to sign his name, so at least it was from like a trustworthy person. The due process would be like, why are you guys tied up? Are you playing some type of prank on me? Did you tie yourselves up?
Again, maybe just one of those things that, again, in crafting the story and and remember, this, you have to remember too, this was also a time when they didn't have internet. And they didn't have computers. They didn't have fax machines. They didn't have a lot of the luxuries we have today that would make editing a lot easier to do than back then.
Well, a lot of times you worked in the same building, maybe even the same floor, if not on the different floor of the person who was editing your book.
Yeah.
But I think the bigger thing is, I've noticed about a lot of these older stuff, the writers often didn't know a thing about the law more than just like what they heard on the radio and like radio plays or stuff. So it's thinking like, if an actual cop came by, he really couldn't actually do anything just because they're tied up and it says foreign spies. He needs like hard evidence that they're spies or stuff. He'd probably question who tied these people up.
Well, you have to remember too. I think in some respects, some of the writers and artists of this time were, for that time period. Maybe by today's standards, they probably wouldn't be considered as such. But for that time period, they were probably, many of the comic writers of that period of time were probably considered the hard left liberals, quote unquote.
Oh yeah, of course.
Of that time.
That's pretty much always been the trend.
However, by comparison, they're probably relatively tame by comparison to today's hard left liberals and SJWs and all that.
Well, by comparison, most of them would be considered conservatives if they still had their views around. But that tends to be, you kind of age out of your progressivism because time leaves you in the dust.
Right. Yeah. Progressivism doesn't last as well as people like to believe it does.
Oh, right? Because there's always further places to progress. They never run out.
Yeah. But just in time, Shock catches up with the train. This is one way to catch a train. And I'm guessing with his electric powers, he's magnetizing himself to the train and pulling it back, I guess.
Yeah, that's not really hard to reach. I could see, or like pulling himself to it, some draw between it. Yeah.
And then I guess he's still using magnetism there to stay on the train as he runs.
It's got to be a helpful power if you think about it, though. Being able to magnetize to any metal sheet that you find.
Yeah. Again, his powers are electrical based, so but with a power-laden flying leap, Shock reaches the top of the caboose and runs swiftly over the tops of the swaying cars. So I'm guessing he's utilizing his electric powers to magnetize himself to the top so he doesn't, so like momentum or whatever doesn't knock him off. You say that's a decent theory right there, Metal?
Yeah. I don't know how necessary it would be. I guess some of the tracks, if you're going to be going around like an edge, can get kind of rickety. Once you're stable on the train, you should actually be able to just run across a train, no problem, because you would retain the same momentum as the train you're on. But I could see taking the extra precaution so he can run as fast as possible, not worrying about like the train like turning real fast around a bend or anything.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. Reaching the engine, Shock seizes the whistle and blows the danger zone. Toot, 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 toot. Meanwhile, in the giant locomotive, that's a danger signal. Our whistle. Slam the brakes. Emergency. The train screeches to a stop only inches from disaster.
Wow. He must have gotten there fast because a train going at any regular speed takes like a mile to stop.
Yeah. What happened? Who blew the whistle? A man jumped on the engine. He saved our lives. Meanwhile, Shock is busy replacing the rail. I've been working on the railroad. And it looked like I guess he looked like he's trying to magnetize the track there. Trying to weld it back.
Maybe I don't know if
Magnetize
that's.
it or weld it back together.
Yeah, I think it's probably the second because even if you just have lightning powers, you could just superheat it, right? It's gonna melt together anyway.
Mm-hmm. He hammers in the spikes with his fist. Wow.
Well, I'm not.
Good.
That doesn't shock me. If you're strong enough to rip a tree out of the ground, roots and all, you could probably use your fist as a replacement for a sledgehammer.
Yep. Good gosh, are you using your fist on those spikes? Sure, I haven't time to look for a sledge. Now, of course, back then, sledge was just short for sledgehammer.
Yeah.
The way is clear. Now I'll take that engine, have a use for it. You can't. The rules say.
I think we're beyond rules right now, and actually, I think that's probably one of the things that hasn't changed. It's just most people aren't doing as much manual labor. I use a sledge all the time for stuff, and I think a lot of people who do a lot of construction stuff probably still call it just a sledge. It's easier than saying sledgehammer every time or specifying what type of hammer you want.
Yeah. After severing the coupling with a blow of his hand, Shock swings aboard the locomotive. I make my own rules when lives are to be saved. Shock opens wide the throttle. Now, one thing I can tell you about a lot of heroes back in this time period, back in the Golden Age, with the way they wrote a lot of heroes. Now, granted, I only know basically through my experiences with DC and any of the companies that DC bought, like Fawcett and Quality and all that. But yeah, when it comes to rules, when it comes to like things like the Constitution, they very much, and you may have seen it in some of the stories we covered before, where they do play a little fast and loose with such things, to say the least.
Yeah. Which again kind of goes back to they were the progressives of their time. They thought, hey, if it meant helping somebody, it's okay to break the rules. Which, to some degree, I can agree with. It's just like you have to have personal boundaries and lines. But I think ultimately, Superman and Batman became some of the most popular heroes because they tried to play within the rules as much as possible while breaking as few as necessary to do what they needed to do.
Right. Even though very early on, of course, and we talked about this with one of the heroes that that Rick and I read last week with the comment. You did have a number of heroes who actually did kill the criminals early in many of these early stories.
I mean, Batman did. Yeah, very early on, he was killing all of his. It's like that's just how it was.
Yeah. Well, let's see. The comment in his first story killed like 3 or 4 people, from what we saw.
And I'm fine with that because let's be real. Some of these people deserve to be killed. Like if you're doing something like robbing a bank and you're trying not to kill innocent bystanders, sure, due process, put them in jail. If somebody's in the middle of blowing up railroad tracks or whatever, and killing them would stop them from blowing up the railroad track, you're kind of justified in that case.
A justifiable defense and that.
Yeah. Like they're actively doing something that's harming somebody at the time.
Right. Now for the eastbound train, this speed's running. And the locomotive speeds toward Laurel Hill. In a few minutes, this must be the place. There you see Laurel Hill right there.
Yeah.
The weekend culvert, a death trap for trains. Yes, this is the work of those spies.
Now, I would be careful though coming up to a place and it says Laurel Hill and that's where he thinks he's going, because he showed us earlier that in this world anybody can just pick up signs and write whatever they want on them.
That's probably true. But how many people, granted that while that's true, how many people actually do it? And granted, I don't think there were quite as many practical jokers back in 1939 as there might be today. In other words, could I see somebody from this time period, from like today, doing something like that? Well, yeah, I'm just gonna pick up a sign, write something on it, just to get people's reactions, you know, or some kind of joke, you know, something like the prankster, one of Superman's enemies.
Well, the trickster's been an archetype throughout all of human history for a reason. I mean, you should go back to ancient Greece and figure out things that people did in the name of Hermes, who was like the god of practical jokes.
Mhm. Well, yeah, but again, I think in as compared to, let's say, today, I don't think there were that many people in 1939, especially considering the time and what was going on in the country at that point. Don't really think there were a lot of people pulling that kind of immature garbage, right?
I don't know. There's always been teenagers.
Yeah. Well, even teenagers back then were probably more mature than they are now. Because if you think about it, that granted, even though we may have been coming out of the depression by that point, but you do know a lot of teenagers were already helping out their families working.
Oh yeah, yeah. But that still didn't stop them from being rebellious.
Yeah, so, anyways, at high speed, the eastbound freight approaches Laurel Hill. Here she comes now. No time to fix a culvert. I'll I'll hold it up myself. Does this scene look familiar to you? Uh, look at the scene in the next frame there. Does that look
Yeah, yeah.
familiar to you?
It's very, very Superman.
Hmm. We've
Yeah.
seen that in a number of cartoons where Superman was involved, or any kind of like Superman-esque hero, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also only recently found out that those were called culverts, right? Because it's not a word that like anybody actively uses in their like day-to-day speech.
Yeah,
And
I
I
didn't
was
even
watching
think
a
I wasn't even sure what a culvert was either.
Yeah, it's a drain, right? Kind of like a water relief system that you put underneath roads and railroads and stuff. And I only even found that out because I was watching a video of somebody who was stealth camping, or like camping where you're not supposed to be,
Oh,
and he
it's
camped
a drainage
inside of a
system.
culvert. Yeah,
A
yeah.
culvert. You know
It's
what? You
almost
know
like a
what I
levee.
thought a culvert was. I
What?
thought a culvert, based on what I was seeing here, was the section of track that hangs over, an empty space, like over a bridge or something like that.
No, the empty space itself is the culvert, right? And you see the
Oh,
kind of like the creek or drainage going underneath it. It's
okay.
so that water relief doesn't tear away at the roads and stuff. Like sometimes you'll see a road and
Mhm.
it'll be elevated amongst the rest of the ground, and there'll be like a huge like pipe, right, that allows the water, like the creek, to go underneath the road. That's a culvert, right? Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Wow. Learn something new every day,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah, like I said, I only recently learned that within the last year, and I'm like, I wish somebody would have let me know that very early on. I always wanted to know what the name of that was.
Standing under the track, Shock holds up with his mighty arms and shoulders. As the heavy train rumbles over safely. Okay, now I see what you're talking about there. All right, because I see it looks like he's standing in some kind of stream or river there that's going underneath it right there.
Yeah, yeah, and it even looks like his. I mean, it'd help his stance too to have his legs wide apart, but it looks like his feet are like on the very edges, which would be the most shallow part of it.
Well, yeah, because I mean the dude's dude's powers are electrically based.
Yeah.
What do you think would happen if while he's activated, he touches the water?
Well, I want to assume he would be fine. I'm not sure if anything else touching that creek would be, though.
Yeah, that. After the train has passed, well, that's that. Now to get this engine back to the cars. Shock speeds off to the westbound train. Well, here's your engine back. Good. We won't be more than a few minutes late. Have the culvert fixed at Laurel Hill and send the police to pick up 4 foreign spies in the hobo jungle. I'll do it gladly. So long. Then, with a series of gigantic leaps, Shock starts across country. And we look at that. And now for that steel mill. Oh yeah, we still got to save the steel. We've saved the trains. Now we got to save the steel mill, right? Right there.
Yeah. Oh, it's how trusting everybody is. That's the only thing that bothers me, right? And I get it. You've got to go fast. We got to go fast. We only have so many pages, but like, this conductor is now saying, yeah, Shock said that there's these 4 spies off in the wood that you need to go and detain. There's no like written affidavit or anything like that.
Yep.
It's like it's all just trusting word of mouth here.
Yeah. And again, we've already, and you mentioned it as well, and I mentioned it before. And it, again, it's a mix of only having so many pages to work with, but also, as another thing we mentioned is that the writers and artists of this of comic books at this time were the hard left progressives of that time period. By today's standards, they'd be considered conservative, but
yeah, so at least like Superman has the decency to drop the criminals like right on the doorstep of the police station, so you can see Superman waving as he flies away. It's like, oh yeah, that was Superman. I could trust that these are criminals.
He arrives at the outer gate of the steel mill. You can't come in here. That's what you think. Oh boy. From a standing start, Shock jumps the fence. I wonder if I broke a record. Gosh, he must be part kangaroo.
Yeah, that's why he could jump so high.
Shock makes his way to the inside of the mill. Fire furnace number 13. Wait, hold it. Says who?
I also like how he jumps over a fence, which, thinking of a steel mill, those probably are 15-foot fences. And he's thinking he might broke a record when we just saw him jump off of a cliff face earlier as he ran over here. I'm like, I'm sure you broke that record a long time ago, dude.
Yeah, but again, it's the writing of the time.
Yeah.
You see that again though. That I think is one of the funner things about this too. It's just watching how these guys wrote this stuff, how the dialogue came together, how the narration came together, how a lot of this came together. It's not just the language usage itself or the word usage itself, compared to today. Because you notice too, even if at times simple, right? Much of how they generally talk to each other was still fairly formal.
Oh yeah.
Says me, and you'll thank me for this, as he punches the guy out. Look at this stuff in your furnace. It would blow you sky high. Say, mister, thanks for knocking me down. Now, how many times do you think you'd see that today? Somebody knocks
Yeah, I don't know.
you down to save your life, and then they get up right away and say, "Oh, thank you for knocking me down." It kind of reminds you like a fraternity, fraternity, like, may I have another, sir. May I have another, sir.
Yeah, or it's like somebody's freaking out and you slap and you're like, thanks, I needed that. But it's like, I don't know. I feel more like the line would be thanks, but you didn't have to knock me down.
Yeah. Again, though,
Yeah, yeah.
it does make the story a bit more entertaining, though, in the way
Oh,
they
yeah, that's
wrote.
funny.
Yeah, I mean, humorous, adding a little humor to an otherwise, dramatic story there. Meanwhile, on the roof of the steel mill, the dynamite will go off in a few minutes. Now, to make my getaway with the stuff's discovered. The spy lets himself down through a skylight, and I'll fix that guy down there. Yeah, your buddies didn't have much luck. I don't think you're gonna have any more luck than your buddies did there, pal. Right?
Yeah.
Just below the roof. I think we're about to get to the cover shot here. I think we're
Maybe,
about to
yeah.
get the cover shot. Remember the cover?
With the molten steel, yeah.
Just below the roof of the mill, the spy makes his way toward a huge ladle of white, hot, molten steel. That's what cut his ghost. He's just below the ladle. And there it is. The huge ladle tips, and the white, hot, molten metal pours out. That's gonna hurt.
Yeah.
The molten metal cascades straight for shock below. But with a quick spring, shock escapes the fiery steam of steel. Whew, that was close. Then he leaps upwards with a mighty power. Seizes the spy. Let me go! I ain't done nothing. And dangles him over a half full ladle. Oh boy! Isn't this a familiar scene from that time period, eh?
Yeah,
In the middle?
yeah. I mean, it's not very heroic to be dangling people over molten metal, but yeah, the guy kind of also deserves it.
Uh-huh. That was also an attitude that was very reflective in a lot of the hero characters of the time. You've seen a number of, like you were mentioning earlier, and even in Batman's first appearance with Albert Snyder,
Mm-hmm.
when he made the comment, and that's the fate of men like that kind of thing. That was just a general attitude. Tell who's head of the spy ring, or meet the fate you planned for me. I'll talk. Put me down. The head of the ring is Baron von Kampf. His headquarters are in the Florida Everglades. That's all I wanted to know. Shock immediately starts for Florida. So von Kampf is behind this. He's a menace to civilization. And you notice who the main villain is here?
Baron von Kampf.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And what can you
Well, I know Kampf in German means struggle.
But you kind of alluded to it. But
Yeah.
But if the main villain here is German, right? What do you think the writers here are trying to get at here? Where do you think they're going with this?
Well, I'm assuming that Baron von Kampf is probably going to have a very, very small black mustache underneath his nose.
Okay,
There we go.
but let's, what do you think the writers are trying to do by having such a character in this story? What what
Probably the same
what
thing
what
every
type of
writer is
reaction?
trying to do.
What type of reaction do you think the writers are looking to get from the reader by putting this character in this story like this?
Oh, well, it was probably the same thing that every writer was trying to do at the time, just trying to stir public reaction to get America involved into the war.
Right, and that's where I was
Yeah,
trying to get you to
yeah,
go
yeah.
with that.
Well, I was already about to answer that, but then you cut me off again.
Oh, I just because it didn't seem
Yeah,
like I didn't know if you were
yeah,
picking up on where I was trying to go with it or not, but that's why I like re-asked the
yeah.
question.
Well, it's like I don't know. Almost every story that not the last time, but the first time I was on here, I think we were reading. What was it? One of them was Black Ace and or whatever, and we were almost all the stories in that issue were like trying to push people towards the sentiment of joining the war front.
Right.
It's just like it was super common for like, half the stories that were going on at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kind of trying to be more interventionalist at a time when most American citizens did not want to be interventionalist.
Yeah, well, and it's understandable too because it's the creatives, right? The artistic area of New York is where a lot of comics came out of, right?
Uh-huh.
And if you actually look at the makeup of the artistic side of New York at that time, a lot of it were Jews, right? So
Right.
a lot of them felt very personally involved. It's like, hey, it's our
Let's
people that
see,
are,
Jerry Siegel, Joe Schuster, even though
yeah,
they're were from Cleveland. But Jerry Siegel, Joe Schuster. I don't know if Will Eisner was Jewish or not. Um, but yeah, you did have a number
but
of
it
them.
also just across the board, other places, right? Like Cleveland, Chicago, even down to LA. It's like a lot of the creative industry was just filled with Jewish people who all felt like very personally involved, and you don't blame them for based what's going on. There was Jewish people being killed in mass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And soon reaches the great swamps of the Everglades. And like you see his foot, like about almost knee deep in the swamp there. A whole army could hide in these swamps. Shock steps into a nest of deadly poisonous water moccasins. Look at that. Now that's got to be something. You're making your step, and all of a sudden you see looks like you got like three snakes there about to bite your leg, squeezing
Yeah.
about your leg. That's got to be something that. Oh, and they did bite his, and they sink their poisonous fangs into Shock's legs. But Shock's marvelous powers make him immune to the poison. I feel something tickling my leg. The dude is getting poisoned, and he's just saying that it tickles. Wow. Shock.
Yeah.
Gather. Oh,
I'm
go
not
ahead.
shocked.
You're not shocked?
Yeah.
Ha ha. Shock gathers up the deadly reptiles. These snakes may come in handy. Look at how many snakes he's got in his hand there. Wow. All that coil right there. Meanwhile, in a guarded mansion in the middle of the swamp is the headquarters of Baron von Kampf, leader of the spy ring. Number R67 reporting our steel mill plan has failed. I can't understand this.
Oh my god, guy looks like a goblin. Look at those ears.
that's kind of a funny thing too. I think some of the bad guys they drew back then, they actually, because I know another story we read recently where one of the villains did again had the pointy. In fact, it might have been last week with the dragon. He had pointy ears like that.
I think they're trying to like dehumanize him to a way because there's like no human would harm their fellow man like this or even convince others to do it. There has to be somebody who, even if he was born a human, is like a monster inside. We have to make him look like a monster outside too.
Yeah. But I think there are a few people out there who do suffer from some kind of condition where their ears do kind of grow like that. I don't know what the
Maybe.
actual name of it is, but I think maybe not as big and exaggerated here. But I think there have been some people who really have had like pointed ears.
Yeah, this looks like a Nosferatu, like a vampire just decided he was going to commit terrorism one day.
Yeah. Later, sir, a man is approaching through the swamp. You know what to do. Must not leave here. He must not leave here alive. As Shock nears the mansion, machine guns open fire on him. Fire! But Shock creates an electrical field force around his body, and the bullets are deflected. So basically, he creates a force field.
Yeah. I mean, I'm questioning it, but I can run with it. I can believe it.
What is this? The bullets make no impression. We'll try cold steel. Fixed bayonets. Charge! With fixed bayonets, the platoon charges at Shock. Then, with deadly accuracy, Shock hurls the snakes. Poisonous snakes! Run for your lives! Now for Von Kampf.
Oh god, I love that. I mean, it's not like he would have had to be afraid. If his force field can stop the kinetic energy of bullets from hitting him, he could just leave it up, and they would not be able to get him with also metal bayonets, but pocket snakes. It's like pocket sand, but better.
Yeah, but throwing snakes at them, that was probably a rich one, huh?
Oh yeah, yeah. Also, not very heroic, but I like it.
Yeah. But Von Kampf escapes through a secret passage and reaches a boat landing. I'll get away in this speedboat. The boat speeds down the creek. With Shock in pursuit along the bank, he's heading for the coast. The speedboat reaches the coast and makes for the open sea. A few minutes later, Shock reaches the coast. I'll catch him in this rowboat. A rowboat versus speedboat. Normally that wouldn't work, but I think we're about to find out that in this case it probably will. Let's see.
Yeah.
With his marvelous strength, Shock rows the boat with terrific speed. Yeah, could you just imagine that? That'd be like a Looney Tune cartoon, right? All of a sudden you see the right?
The real thing is, I feel like he'd be better off just swimming at him. Those wooden oars, they would just break under the immense pressure that he's putting on it just to row that fast.
Mm-hmm.
But like he could probably just paddle his legs like way faster than he could row that boat anyway.
Oh, look at JR's here.
Yeah.
Hail Xenu and Xena, please be upon them. Yeah. JR Exner has joined us in the chat. Schuster and Siegel were from Montreal. Yeah, well, they based a lot of their stories out of Cleveland, though. I do remember that. Well, I think one of them was probably from Montreal. The other was I think they might have been born in Montreal and then moved to Cleveland, because I know at least I think one of them actually was raised in like Cleveland.
Maybe, I mean, if you were doing split publication, right, between Canada and the U.S., and you needed some type of distribution center, like Cleveland's right across a lake from actually Rick's area. Like Rick could go like a town down and then just take a ferry from the shore down to Cleveland. It'd be convenient.
And Jr's got Shock should freeze the water and walk on it. Actually, not one of his powers though. He's got more electrical based powers.
Well, what if he
JR.
used his electricity? The authors would not know about this back then anyway, but he used the electricity to actually strip all of the electrons from the water in the lake, creating an endothermic reaction that freezed all the water.
Even I wouldn't have thought of that. I don't think that was possible.
Electric powers, if you had like total control over them, would be pretty cracked.
All right, so continuing on here. Let's see. Von Kampf for a once deserted. Oh wait, let me go back here a second. Did I actually?
It would also still be a really bad thing to do because stripping all the
he did.
electrons and creating an endothermic reaction of that size would be like setting off 100 tons of TNT.
Yeah. Von Kampf makes for a once deserted island off the Florida coast. Now a scene of sinister activity. It's a foreign submarine base. That's a violation of American neutrality. Landing on the island, Shock runs to a torpedo pump. This place must be destroyed. With his mighty strength, he hurls the torpedo right and left. I'll torpedo the torpedoes. Oh, there's some alliteration there, huh?
Yeah. Actually, I don't think the sense would be alliteration. That would be identity, which is when you rhyme a word with the same word.
Okay.
Yeah. And a lot of times you use identity. You don't use the full same word. You'll use like rink and sink both contain ink. So if you were to use all three in a rhyme, ink would be the identifier there.
All right. So the torpedoes strike the submarines.
I'm just laughing at the sign that says torpedo dump no smoking. That's probably the funniest bit in this whole comic. That's like something straight out of Looney Tunes. They would put that sign in their cartoon.
$50 donation if panel can demonstrate actual link between Von Kampf and Voight Kampf test in Blade Runner. Well, unfortunately, I'm not monetized yet, so I can't really get any donations. I need 812 more subscribers and probably a lot more viewing hours in order to pull that off. Well, maybe not as much. I do know that they did recently, I guess, lessen some of the qualifications, I guess.
Yeah, to be able to get memberships and donations and stuff, it's 500 subs and I think a total of 4,000 watch hours, which is it's not that hard to get.
What I really need then is another 312 subscribers.
Yeah. I also don't know if we can demonstrate an actual link because I don't think there is one.
Yeah.
But hey,
Anyway,
if people want to donate, they can donate to me anytime. I've got PayPal links and everything.
yeah. Oops. Yes. And the whole island becomes a flaming inferno. Let's blow up an island. That sounds cool, right? And
Well, it
they
does
took
sound
a
cool. At least it
whole
depends
page
who's
to
on
do
it.
it, too. One panel
I was
for
going
this
to
one
appreciate
thing.
this because you don't really see a lot of like full splash pages in this era, and this is a really good splash page for the time. I like it.
I'm just going down a little slower here, so people can take in the view because your commentary there.
Yeah. Because they use a lot of heavy strokes, which you'd have to if you want to get something more painterly due to the printing limitations. Otherwise, you'd end up with like a lot of bleed and stuff. And I think for the limitations that they had artistically at the time, this is a really well done page.
Yeah, good commentary there. We're already past the hour mark. We're not even done with the first story yet. I know we'll get through both stories inside of 2 hours. I'm pretty sure of that. I was just noting that. But one submarine escapes destruction. Von Kampf boards it. Submerge, quick. Get out of here. It heads for the open sea, but unknown to Von Kampf, Shock follows in his rowboat. I mustn't let even one get away. Like he's a committed crime fighter, isn't he? He's a committed crime fighter, isn't he?
Almost a little too committed.
Yeah. An ocean liner steams up over the horizon. Through the submarine's periscope, Von Kampf spies the liner. Make ready the torpedo. The deadly torpedo is shot from the submarine's tube. Straight for the liner streaks the torpedo, leaving a line of bubbles. But Shock dives after it. There are women and children on that boat.
Oof.
Yeah, there are probably also men on that boat too, right? With powerful strokes, Shock swims to overtake the torpedo. Catching the deadly torpedo, Shock reverses its direction. Wow, look at that. Straight back towards the submarine speeds the torpedo. It strikes! Look at that. Later, in the gathering dusk, I've got one chance in 1,000 to survive. As Shock heads for the shore and home, it's getting dark. I think that's the end of Von Kampf. I wish I could be sure. Watch the next issue. Watch for the next Shock Gibson adventure. All right, so I'll kind of breeze through the rest of the comic here just so you can see some of the other features.
Yeah. Well, I was really glad about that last thing, just real quick, where he redirected the torpedo, because I was complaining about like him doing a lot of non-heroic things, but that was probably one of the very few like super justified things that he did, where it's like these people are actively trying to kill civilians and stuff like that. So it's like, yeah, take them out. Use their own medicine against them. That way they can't harm, because it's not like they were going to retreat. They were just going to keep trying to kill people. So just blow them up right there.
Right. All right. So, anyways, so we're just gonna. Here's your chance to be a human dynamo. Join the Shock Gibson volunteers. Get a live wire button. He did this a lot too with back in these days too. And you've probably heard
Yeah.
me talk about this before, where like the comics back in this time period, a lot of times they were calling them comic magazines. They're more akin to what highlights are, right? Because you'd
Yeah.
have participatory things like this, where you'd have fan clubs like this. You will get one, an enrollment card in the Shot Gibson Volunteers. Two, an amazing electric looking live wire button, which shows that you are a member of the volunteers. And there's the fill this out now. Crash, cork, and burn right there. I'll scroll down for you. Just again, Ted Parrish. Now this is another feature we've covered before. Ted Parrish, the man of 1,000 faces. Basically, he's a Hollywood actor who at times gets kind of bored with just being an actor. He goes on adventure. It's like I remember one of the stories we read with him in it was where he had been involved in a lot of like love stories, a lot of romance movies, and he said, "Well, I want more action." Then he goes out and gets more action in real life, and then screw it, I'm done with action, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Circus fight by. This is a text story here.
Oh, we got like a little pulp in the middle of there. Okay.
Biff Bannon, the fighting of the U.S. Marines, right there. Now in Panama by Rembrandt. Okay. Look at that mug on him.
Mm.
Let's see. Smoke Carter, Crime with a Crawl by Joey Martin. It was, and also from this time of year, it's fun how they had. Now, granted, eventually they'd have more or less, a lot of them just more or less with superheroes, with the occasional other type of story. But you notice how mixed these anthologies were.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Landor,
Actually, just flipping through
Monsters.
that last one, one thing I appreciated was the smoke was used artistically, like almost like abstract, right? And it changed the style of the art compared to like a lot of these things basically almost have like a house style where everybody's trying to draw as close to the same as possible, but the smoke really added a different dimension flipping through those panels.
Mm-hmm. And here's Texas Tyler, another one we've kind of read before by Harry Walters, another feature we've read before. A Western. Airspeed, which now they'd also have these little featurettes in them too, where sometimes in this case Airspeed focusing on like profiles of airplanes. Spike
Hmm.
Marlin by Carl Wilson here. Seaman. And there we go. All right, so now with that, now I'll start to head back to this page because now we have one more feature we're going to read. The champ. That one won't be quite long. It's only 12 pages, but you'll find the small press occasions. So how did you like that? How did you like the first story you read?
It was a fun story. I don't know how much of a hero I could call him. He's talking about like caring about fair play. It's like there's a few things in there I'm not sure fall into fair play. Seems more like a character I would write, and less of somebody that has like strong heroic values. And it seems like he's doing it as a hobby. That's what he comes off of to me reading it. And then I understand that might have seemed different at the time, but with modern sensibility, it seems more like he just really enjoys doing this stuff, and that's why he's stopping people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, I don't know, too much more other than just what I've read, but
Yeah.
So here's the other book, Champion Comics, 10 cents,
Also,
January.
hey Rick.
Rick, you're up. Hey, y'all. Let's see. Awesome comic, germophobic. All right, don't know
I
what
think
that
you mean German-phobic.
Yeah, probably. Or Teutonophobic. All right. It could be a troop ship or have thousands of rounds of ammunition in the ship.
If we're talking about their target, they mentioned women and children, probably specifically for you to think that it was a civilian ship. Like there could be transported women and children on a troop ship, but if you're going to mention that in a superhero, I think that's so that the brain automatically connects that they're targeting civilians.
All right. So, anyways, I'm moving on here to the next article here. Next story. 64 pages in full color. One of the other features in here, that's Neptina, I believe. Yeah, Neptina. Yeah, the Blazing Scarab. Yaki Gold. Liberty Lads. Um, Jungle Man. The Champ. The Champ is the feature we're going to focus in on, of course. And we have read some of the other features before, but again, time constraints and all that.
Yeah.
And then here's all right, read this real quick. Hello, pal. I'm sure glad to see you. Look to me as if there will be plenty happening next issue, and I may need some help. Hope you've been keeping in training so that you can give a good account of yourself if the occasion demands. Just be with me next month and keep your eyes peeled for trouble. I'll call on you, and if I get in too tight a jam, you see, I've been tipped off to something, and I'll admit it has me a bit worried. If I only had a buck, if I only had to buck a gang of ordinary crooks, or mix it up with a few tough guys, I'd hardly give it a thought. I could handle the situation okay, but this time, pal, I'll be up against something terribly big and sinister. It is a vast organization of clever but ruthless men who are acting under orders of a powerful and evil mastermind who calls himself the Yellow Spider. Wonder what the Yellow Spider's supposed to be. Have any thoughts? No.
Yellow Spider. No, I'm not sure.
Well, when it comes to certain enemies, right? Colors have often been depicted as to represent certain enemies, particularly of another nation, maybe.
Other nation. Yeah, if yellow is used constantly, I'm not sure which nation.
Yeah. Well, I would be thinking usually times, yeah, when you're talking about a yellow anything as a villain, it usually ends up being somebody from China.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Just because they often, I guess, Asians were called yellow in the past.
Mhm. America is in danger. The whole world is in danger. You see, I've got to fight this menace. The future of our whole civilization may depend upon my success or failure. I can count on you, can't I? Of course, I really should be getting back to college, for my vacation is nearly over. Maybe I now. That's
Also, hey,
interesting.
Woody.
That's interesting because if we're to assume that when that
Can't believe
these
he's still here.
stories were made around the time that they were coming out, him being on vacation from school in November, that'd be a bit of a stretch. I mean, even if you want to, I right, KLJ, um, even if you were to make the assumption that okay, maybe he's coming off of the Thanksgiving holiday, but still, oops, not exactly what I was trying to do. Anyways, back to this.
Oh, did you accidentally click to the next page?
Yeah. All right. Maybe I can still make it in time. Anyway, I just can't stand by and let this band of super cutthroats go unchallenged. I am certain that this yellow spider was responsible for the death of my friend and benefactor, Dr. Marlin, and I am equally sure that the mysterious villain has designs upon my own life. Since the events that are pictured in this issue, I have come into some startling information. That precious formula again. I can't tell you about it now, but there will be plenty of fireworks next month. That formula falls into the bloody hands of the yellow spider, it will prove to be as great a force against mankind as Dr. Marlin had planned it to be for mankind. So you see, pal, there ought to be heaps of excitement and lots of thrilling action ahead for your sincere friend, the champ. Now, what do you think the purpose of this letter was from the lead feature character?
Well, I would say it serves multiple purposes. One, to prime the audience for what might be coming up, which I think is good. It's like a form of building up expectation. But also, it's a form of characterization, getting to hear this stuff directly from the character. It helps you feel a little closer to it. It's the type of stuff I would like to do because it's a letter to the reader, but it's in character, you know. And I think that it's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. Let's see. Hmm. All right, so I'm gonna. Yeah, the metal. Yo, the metal. All right. So, anyways, the champ. In last month's issue of Champion Comics, we saw how the champ won a miraculous victory on the football field, saving the day for his college, and how he later cleaned out a nest of gamblers and crooks. Then he received an urgent message from Dr. Marlin, summoning him to the city for an important conference. The champ is now on the train speeding toward Chicago, where his friend Dr. Marlin awaits him. Champ grabs up his heavy baggage as though it were weightless. Hmm. Look at that! Look at that man juggle them bags. To the Jackson building on LaSalle Street, driver. Champ enters Dr. Marlin's outer office and is surprised to find nobody there. Hello, somebody? Dr. Marlin! Upon the floor of the inner room, Champ discovers a body. All right, so didn't see the
That's
narration.
very
Huh?
awkwardly drawn, right? So the way he's leaned over like that and his fist is clenched, it doesn't look like he's actually like he found somebody. They're just trying to squeeze him in frame, but it looks like he was the one that knocked the guy out.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be interpreted that way, I guess. Hmm. It is the doctor, dead. The office shows signs of having been ransacked. Hello, police? There has been a murder here. Please hurry. Who could have done this terrible thing? I'll get to the bottom of this if it's the last thing I do. Police arrive. This way, officer. The champ is grilled by the inspector. Hmm. I, I'll check your story later, young fellow. Just you stick around. I'll be here, all right. Detective Sergeant Harrigan is assigned the case. Something queer here, Pat. Go to it. Champ volunteers to work with Harrigan. Hmm. Okay, bud. You and I'll get along. Any idea who pulled this job? I know you probably weren't here when RJ and I first read this feature, so I'll give you a little head. So the champ is a college student who was basically raised by Dr. Marlin. He had
Oh, so he's got a really personal connection to the guy.
yeah. He Dr. Marlin had been raising him, and had been injecting him with a special like medicine serum that granted him, some not like superpowers per se, but basically, you know, he was basically at peak human condition physically.
Yeah, so it's like one of those like earlier ideas that would later become like the super soldier serum and stuff, just not military related or anything like that.
Hmm. Let's see. Dr. Marlin had an assistant, an Oriental scientist by the name of Katsu. Hmm. Attaboy. We'll just give this Katsu bird a look-see. Detective Harrigan locates Dr. Katsu's apartment on Lakeshore Drive and pays him a visit. Hmm. Look like nobody's home, bud. We're going in. Again, like you were saying in the earlier story, in regards to the laws, right?
Yeah.
Kind of ignored them here. Hmm. The bird has flown the coop. All right, look at this joint. Not so long ago, though, that cigarette butt is still not so long ago, though, that cigarette butt is still smoking. You see, again, he has height. He's a pretty bright kid here.
Yeah, yeah.
Later, at his hotel, the champ receives a letter from Melvin Adkins, Dr. Marlin's lawyer.
It's pretty fast.
Yeah. But the envelope contains a note in the familiar hand of Dr. Marlin. Melvin Adkins, attorney at law. What can okay. Melvin Atkins, attorney at law. What can he be writing to me for? And then the late doctor in the hand of, and my boy, I know that the
Formula. I'm pretty sure this is
I know
formula.
that the formula will be safe in your hands. You you will find it concealed in the black black malking stitch. Just all
I
right,
think
I
that
can't
says walking stick.
walking stick. And a black walking stick. Just
Unscrew.
unscrew the gold head, and you will find the secret compartment. Use this for the good of the entire. All right, not much
Yeah.
else you can make out
It is a
there.
common trope in old media around this time, especially because I think it was an actual thing that existed. But people would have like canes, but like those old-fashioned canes that didn't have a hook or anything. It was just like a walking cane, and the heads could unscrew, and people would put stuff in there. Sometimes important things or whatever. If you were trying to walk down the street and you thought maybe you'd get mugged, you could put like your money in there instead of keeping it in your pocket. Maybe they would let you go when they find out you have no money on you.
Hmm.
And sometimes the heads unscrewed were just a knife.
Yeah. At police headquarters. Yep, Chief. It's a cinch. This Katsu guy did it. The walking stick is missing. He must have known of the doctor's hiding place for the formula. That night, the champ awakens with a start and sees a shadowy figure bending over his bed.
Mm.
Champ launches himself from the bed and grapples with the intruder. A second shadow enters the conflict, and Champ is dealt a terrific blow on the head. Ow, my head! What hit me? Gosh, bud, I socked you. Uh, gosh, bud, I socked you. Who was the other guy? It's a cinch that whoever croaked the doctor didn't get that formula and thinks you got it.
Mm.
If I could only get my hands on the scoundrel. The champ sets a trap. I want to place this ad for a laboratory assistant to help in vitamin research work. Classified department. Many applicants are interviewed by the champ. Only one arouses his interest. This one, a young Oriental, receives the position. Report here tomorrow for work, Kyoto. Next day, I'll be ready soon for the real work. Meanwhile, check up on the equipment. Far into the night, the champ pores over Dr. Marlin's notes in the hopes of finding some clue to the formula. Next day, he calls Kyoto in and throws a great bluff. Well, Kyoto, tomorrow we start preparations for the commercial production of the wonderful Marlin Food Tonic. That night, the champ secretly returns to the laboratory and hides in a locker. Towards midnight, stealthily steps are heard, and the door opens quietly. Two men enter and start a systematic search, aided by a pocket flashlight. Champ snaps on the light and confronts the intruder, Kyoto and Dr. Katsu. Kyoto makes a sudden dive for the champ and tries for a jujitsu hold. Wow, and look at this. But Champ, also a jujitsu expert, spins Kyoto around and hurls him against a steel cabinet. Maybe these are Japanese, not Chinese.
Yeah, no, I do think he's Japanese. I mean, Kyoto is already like that's phonetically how you would make Japanese names, and if it's jujitsu, then it's like that makes it even more likely to be Japanese.
Oh no, you don't, Slant Eyes. Okay, now just make it
That's what I
clear.
was laughing at.
Yeah, just so we make it clear here. This is how they spoke back then. This does not mean that we necessarily condone the usage of the term today. We're just reading the comic and giving perspective. I just wanted to throw that out there so we don't have anybody
And
like
back then, I don't. I mean, maybe not now, but it wasn't even that long ago. People were still using that term.
So, I mean,
Probably
just
should have
so,
been, but not that long ago.
right. I mean, we're doing this from a historical perspective. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I want people to understand.
Even for the time, there are worse things they could have said.
Yeah.
They had to pick the one that they could get away with publishing.
Remember what I said at the very beginning, how they spoke more formally back in this time?
Well, I don't think people did, but there was they wrote more formally. I think is more of the thing to say. Even in something that was supposed to be people casually talking, it wasn't very common for people to write characters speaking like people speak. That's something that came around much later. Like we do that now.
Yeah. Be so kind as to raise your hands quickly, or I shall have to kill you. Blind with fury, Champ ignores the menacing gun in Dr. Katsu's hand. He dives at the Asiatic's knees. So he's going for a double leg takedown right there. Champ and the Oriental engage in a desperate battle. While Kyoto, recovered from his knockout, watches for an opportunity to aid his countrymen. A chloroform-soaked sponge is thrust into the champ's face as he struggles with the wily Katsu. The battle is over, and the champ lies unconscious at the feet of his yellow-skinned assailants. Even the strong one cannot withstand the perfume of oblivion. Okay, that's an interesting thing to call it. The perfume of oblivion. Chloroform. Chloroform, the perfume of oblivion. The perfume of oblivion, chloroform.
Yeah. So I was trying to see if because they didn't look like letters I actually recognized. They are letters, but Google Lens is having even trouble figuring out what that means.
What, this up here, you mean?
Yeah, the words that he was saying at the top when he was supposed to be speaking Japanese.
Yeah.
There, the middle one, I know that's like a preposition, like to do something, but I can't even recognize. It's almost like somebody just scribbled some random Japanese words together, not even to make a full sentence.
Anyway, two other Orientals enter the room. Kyoto motions to the inert figure on the floor, and without ceremony, Champ is carried out into the night. Next morning, Detective Harrigan calls at the laboratory. The place is a mess, and Champ has disappeared. Sure made a wreck of this cabinet. What's this? The broken cabinet discloses a secret compartment in which a fitted gold-headed walking stick. Dr. Marlin's cane. Meanwhile, underground in a cellar room, the champ is being held prisoner. Big fella. Not so smart now, maybe. Champ strains at his bonds, but they are too strong for even his great strength. Dr. Katsu takes no chances. So, Mr. Champ, you have awakened. A pleasant nap, I trust? I will come directly to the point. I want that tonic formula. With it, I shall be able to increase the stature and power of my people. The world will then be ours, for we would be supreme. I turn the formula over to me, and save yourself some unpleasant experiences. No, you yellow dog. Dr. Marlin meant that tonic for the benefit of the world, so the whole human race, not the means for one people to dominate the earth. If I can prevent it, you'll never get your filthy hands on it. Were you chuckling at yellow dog?
Yeah.
Another Asian slur. You no doubt know, Mr. Champ, that my race is noted for loosening stubborn tongues. Yours will be no exception. This is America, you rat, not Asia. Take him, Kyoto. Perhaps a taste or two of the whip will change our friend's mind. The champ is securely bound to a supporting post in the cellar, while Katsu again demands the formula. Champ ignores him. Kyoto lays the lash upon Champ's bare back. Now look at that. You got a chain there, and look at the markings on his back there. There's another one in the file of this was written for kids.
Yeah. It also seems less effective. Like, you could hurt somebody with a chain, but it's mostly the mass of the chain. Like, you get the same thing done with an actual whip, which is like more mechanically designed to do that. Like, they can break the sound barrier. You're not going to be able to do that with a chain.
Suddenly, Chance brings his powerful muscles into play. He's breaking the post and wrenches the huge post lodge with a crash. Wow, talk about stupid, huh? Let's tie this guy to a weapon. Right?
I'm almost wondering what that post was doing, because, like, look how close it is to the corner of a room. It can't be a load-bearing post, right? You've got the corner of the room is right there. Like, why was this post even in this room?
I have no idea. Maybe another one of those things the writers just didn't think too hard about when they...
We just needed something to tie him to.
Yeah. He swings the post about him, knocking down his captors. It looks as though Champ would make good his escape, but Katsu leaps forward with a drawn gun. This will stop you. Champ suddenly brings the post down upon the surprised Oriental. Low bridge! A fire licks through the wrecked ceiling. Champ burns his bonds. Look at that. Scorched but free, Champ attacks the locked door with his bare hands and pulls it from its hinges, just in time to escape being roasted alive. Look at it. Wow, some action, quite some action here, huh?
Yeah.
Realizing that Katsu and Kyoto are helpless in the blazing room, Champ returns for them. So here's somebody who's acting a bit more heroic
Yeah.
and carries his erstwhile captors to safety. And look at that, he's carrying them both in his arms, both of them. That's approximately what? Close to what? Maybe 300, 400 pounds right there?
I'm thinking, right? Especially because they're supposed to be Japanese, and one did seem taller than average because he was closer to Champ's height. But your average Japanese man probably weighs about a buck 35.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah, that's gonna be
probably around
about
300 pounds right there.
30-ish. Oh, just around. Yeah.
Um, Seeking a way out of the smoke filled building, Champ is suddenly set upon by several Oriental thugs. Champ hurls one enemy into the faces of the others. Wow, we've seen that bit before, haven't we?
Yeah.
Huh. Soon, firemen and police burst into the flaming building. Is everybody out of there, officer? Um, guess so, and as bad a lot as I've ever laid eyes on. Hey, there are two missing. What happened to Dr. Katsu and that fellow Kyoto? The smoldering ruins are searched for signs of the two Asiatics. Notice what they called them back. They called them, instead of calling them Asians, they called them Asiatics back then. You notice that?
Yeah, yeah. Which I don't even think that term even sounds that offensive or anything, but it's just a bad term. It sounds less like you're talking about a people group and more like somebody suffering from like a back pain or something.
A medical disorder, maybe.
Yeah, something.
Well, Asiatic does rhyme with sciatic,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Sciatic nerve.
Almost looks like the word sciatic's in there if you took the A off the top.
Yeah. Well, I think it might be sciatic might be one of those terms that has a silent P in front of it, like psychology.
Yeah. I don't know. My mom had sciatic pains, but I never bothered to actually look up how it was spelled.
Yeah. Nothing here. They must have made a clean getaway. Champ gets to a telephone booth and calls up Detective Harrigan. I'm okay, but Katsu and Kyoto gave us the slip. Hmm. Well, don't worry about that now, fellow. Just hop a cab and get over here to headquarters. I've got something for you. Police headquarters and make it snappy. As he piles into the waiting cab, Champ is abruptly aware of the fact that he is not alone. We meet again, my strong friend. One false move and you die quickly. Like, I would imagine Champ could probably just grab that guy's wrist, crush it, and literally crush the gun out of his hand.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Uh, maybe. Because especially his strength seems more aligned with like those classic strongmen at the time, which is mostly grip strength. So I don't know if he could crush the gun immediately, but he could probably slowly curl the steel. I could see that very,
Okay, so
very
maybe
much
crush the
happening.
gun. Maybe crush the gun wasn't the. I meant
Yeah.
crush the wrist, obviously, and
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
maybe
Well, you
crush
just
the
said
wrist
crush
to
the
the point
hand,
to
which
where
I
he
could
released.
easily see him
My
crushing the
my
hand.
thing was
Yeah.
what I was trying to get at. He'd probably
Mhm.
crush Dr. Katsu's wrist enough to where Katsu would release the gun. You'd be
Yeah,
forced
that could
to.
happen. Oh, because he could easily just like break that guy's entire hand in his grip. That for sure.
So you're still alive after that
Yeah.
form. You're still after that formula. I intend to get it without further delay. Oh yeah, you'll get it all right. I like that response.
Yeah.
Right? You'll get it all right. The racing taxi cab swings around a corner on two wheels. So these guys are fighting in the back of a taxi cab. You have kind of what I wonder if Kyoto's the one who's actually driving it. and stops with a jolt in a dark side street. The door bursts open. Champ and Dr. Katsu roll out upon the pavement, fighting grimly. Here's something to remember me by. In the excitement, another cab rolls up, and Champ is menaced by a horde of yellow men. Of course he is.
Yeah,
Probably Dr.
I'm
Katsu.
surprised that they actually bothered to color these Asian people that they keep calling yellow with general skin tone like they did, and not just give them yellow skin like the bumpers on that cab there. At least there's some tact.
Yeah. Come on, you rats. The more, the merrier. At this moment, a rival Oriental mob burst angrily upon the scene. Champ and his unexpected allies give battle. A general bloody fracas is shown in progress. I need to go off camera for a quick moment to
Okay.
make some lighting adjustments here. I'll be right back. Why don't you talk to the chat? Figure out what you do, but I'll be right back.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I think so far, which we're almost done with this anyway. I've definitely preferred this. It's a much an easier story to follow, as far as like motivations of characters. Like it's straight up. I wouldn't call it a revenge story, but it's definitely a personal justice story. And I have a lot less qualms with the hero character bending around the law. He actually follows more of the law than the other guy did too. Just in general. And I don't know. It's I also like this formula thing, like the way you were describing it before too, where it was like he was being treated over time. It's actually a lot more realistic, whether the author knew this or not. Similar, like how people take steroids to help increase their muscle growth. Like if you were going to treat somebody to bring them to the peak of human ability, it would be over a long period of time, like micro treatments of a formula, and not just like how Captain America in some versions of it just gets like a super dosed and then blasted with radiation. And Champ seems kind of cool. Like I said, he has a very solid motivation as a character. This is a should be closer to a gold standard for writing when it comes to characters for something this short. And I think the letter at the beginning also really helped establish the motivation going into the story. Hmm. This still just laughing about all the racial stuff in here though. It's very appropriate for the time. That's what makes it so funny. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, you know, I was actually going to say something earlier. I also, when he tackled the guy out of the car, like I don't even think they had to fight that long when he tackled him onto the pavement, because they talk about how the fight was continuing as they rolled in the pavement. It'd probably be over right there. If that guy's not like a fighter or anything, he probably doesn't know how to land. especially having somebody on top of him as he rolls out. He probably got knocked out the second he landed on the pavement. That's how most street fights ends, is when somebody lands on the pavement.
All right. I was listening to some of your analysis, and I said
Yeah.
I was just making some lighting adjustments
Yeah,
because
yeah.
the sun was coming down, so had to take care of some of that. But anyways, let's try to get through the rest of the story here and finish up here. We're already coming up on 2 hours here, and we just have the This Day in Niche History segment. And then, all right. So, anyways, so long, you guys. Fight it out. I have more important things to do. Champ arrives at the police station to see Detective Harrigan. See what I found, bud? Dr. Marlin's trick cane. Well, your formula hunt is over. Thanks, Sergeant. Now I can carry out the doctor's lifetime plans. But does the champ get the precious formula? Dr. Katsu and his Asiatic mob are still at large, and they are not fooling. Be sure to be here next month when the champ meets the Yellow Spider. Mystery, thrills, action. Follow Champ's adventures in Champion Comics. All right, so that's it for that. So how did you like the selections tonight, Metal?
Yeah, they were pretty fun. Like the first one was fun because of how silly it was. It was a very silly comic. The second one was fun. I would say it's that much higher quality writing with the champ.
In what respect?
Well, it had better pacing, even though I was pretty sure it was less pages, and it's a lot harder to get
pages.
pacing.
It's like 12 pages compared to 22.
And despite how much longer the other one was, it still skipped around a lot, right? Like it had its beats, and it was hard. I wouldn't say it was hard to follow, but like he kept going from location to location and just doing things. While this one, there was more of a solid pace of following the champ through everything. It's almost like it was happening in real time, right? His motivations were stronger, right? Because the other guy talked about fair play, but that doesn't really play into anything that happened in that comic. So it just, he's a hero doing things, while the champ has very strong motivations for what he's doing in this comic, because it's his mentor and friend was just taken out, right? So he's got something pushing him to kind of seek justice, but also to carry out his wishes, because it's like his life's legacy was at stake there. And just everything about it. It was a very strong character story, which I think is
the champ, as I mentioned, college age student, college athlete kind of guy. I think based on it, you get more of the, because the first story dealt with him like outwitting some gamblers for his college. So well, anyways, so we're done with the two features we're going to read tonight. So what we're going to do now is we're going to, of course, today being Friday, July the 14th, 2023, we're going to look back at this day in niche history, and we're going to wrap up after that. So let me just do a quick review here. And of course, if you can stick around for a couple minutes after the show, Metal, to just for post-show stuff, that'd be appreciated. 1933 and then 2019. Okay. All right. So without any further ado, let's take a look back at this day in niche history. So first off, we're going to head back 90 years ago, as on this day 90 years ago, Popeye the Sailor, the first in the Popeye the Sailor, originally had Popeye the Sailor with Betty Boop, premieres in theaters. It was an animated short produced by Fleischer Studios. Let's see. While billed as a Betty Boop cartoon, it was produced as a vehicle for Popeye in his debut animated appearance. So this would eventually lead to Popeye getting his own features, of course, but they did it through Betty Boop in this case. In fact, I don't even think Betty Boop actually made an appearance here. Her voice actress, though, I stand corrected because it says right here, with Popeye winning both times, and then they watched Betty Boop doing the hula. Okay, so Betty Boop did make an appearance there.
Okay.
Bonnie Poe was both I believe both the original voice of both Olive Oil and Olive Oil and Betty Boop here. So, but anyways, 90 years ago today, the first Popeye cartoon, Popeye the Sailor, premiered on this date 90 years ago today. So, anyway, move on to the next piece of niche history.
I really like Popeye.
Yeah. Moving on to the next piece of niche history. Let's see. Move ahead to 2010, which was 13 years ago, as on this date 13 years ago today. The 15th issue of Unwritten from DC's Vertigo line was published on this date back in 2010, 15 years ago, or 13 years ago today. Sold for $2.99, 32 pages. Story was Bloodlettings, written by Mike Carey, with art by Peter Gross. Todd Klein did the lettering, and Christopher Chuckry did the coloring. So on this date, 13 years ago today, the 15th issue of Unwritten went on sale. Well, moving on to the next piece in niche history as we move ahead to 2013. On this date, 10 years ago today, WWE held its Money in the Bank event. Held its Money in the Bank event from the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia. Let's see. The main event saw Randy Orton defeat CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, aka Bryan Danielson, Sheamus, Christian, and Rob Van Dam in a Money in the Bank ladder match for the WWE Championship contract. Of course, CM Punk, Daniel Bryan under his real name Bryan Danielson, and Christian are all now in AEW. John Cena defeated Mark Henry to retain the WWE Championship. Alberto Del Rio defeated Dolph Ziggler to retain the World Heavyweight Championship at the time. AJ Lee defeated Caitlyn to retain the Divas Championship. Curtis Axel defeated The Miz to retain the Intercontinental. Now, Curtis Axel, for those of you who don't know, that's the son of Curt Hennig, like Curt Hennig. He would actually at times wrestle as Joe Hennig on the independent scene, but and the reason they gave him the name Curtis Axel, it was a kickback to his lineage, as he's another third generation guy. He's the son of Curt Hennig, Mr. Perfect, and the grandson of Larry the Axe Hennig, hence Curtis Axel.
Okay.
Let's see, Damon.
Yeah, I didn't even know who his father was until you said Mr. Perfect. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Damian Sandow defeated Dean Ambrose, aka John Moxley in AEW now. Fandango, currently Dirty Dango in Impact Wrestling. Cody Rhodes, Wade Barrett, Antonio Cesario, aka Claudio Castagnoli in AEW, and Jack Swagger, aka Jake Hager in AEW. And on Money in the Bank ladder match to get a World Heavyweight. So the idea of the Money in the Bank ladder matches were there were ladder matches, and the person who could grab the case would get a contract for a championship title match. So, and the kickoff show saw the members of Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns of the Shield retain the WWE Tag Team Championships over the Usos. So there you go. So that happened 10 years ago, and then now moving ahead to 5 years ago in 2018, our last piece in Niche history. On this date, 5 years ago in 2018, the following anime premiered on Japanese TV. Grand Blue from Zero G, Happy Sugar Life from Ezo'la, and Yuna and the Haunted Hot Springs from Zebek. So those 3 anime premiered on Japanese TV on this date back in 2018, 5 years ago.
Yeah, I've seen Grand Blue, not the other ones though.
Yeah. So with that, I thank everybody for being here tonight. Metal, if you can, as I asked, stick around after the show for a few minutes for some post-show stuff. Anyways, I hope everybody enjoyed the show. I hope you all enjoyed the readings tonight. And I hope to see everybody back here on Sunday when I hope Metal will join us, as well as the rest of our panelists, to discuss some of the recent happenings in Niche, as well as Metal to give his take on to the rest of the panel on what we read tonight. With that, I thank everybody for being here, and I will see you all on Sunday. Bye.